So here's my response to the video made by Ticker Symbol U about Palantir. Now, Ticker Symbol U, which is a terrific channel here on Finance YouTube, it's ran by a friend of mine, Alex, and he makes some of the best content on the platform. Made a critical video about Palantir, specifically criticizing the retail investing community of Palantir for misunderstanding what Palantir is and what Palantir AI is supposed to do. Now, the first thing I want to explain here is I don't want you to send any hate towards Alex, because I think it's important to have contrasting opinions in this story, because we don't want to be an echo chamber where people are not allowed to criticize Palantir, its management, or even its investors. That's absolutely fine, and I think he's doing important work. Now, the first thing I want to explain here with Alex and Palantir. So Alex actually had an opportunity to work and utilize the platform to test it out for himself. So he has more hands-on experience than most people on the platform, which makes what he says very credible. And I have to say that to you so you know he's not some schmuck just talking about the software. He knows what he's talking about. But I think there's certain things that he is misunderstanding here about the software and the company, and I'll explain. So I'm not a software engineer, and I'm not going to talk about the intricacies of AIP and Foundry, because I'm sure that is something Alex knows way more than me about. But in his video, his main argument was very, very simple. It was a twofold argument. Number one was that Palantir is currently being traded with a lot of its future success already priced into the stock. Now, that is a good point, but the fact of the matter is that it's the same point we can make for Tesla or ASML, the Dutch company with the lithography machines, or any other good company. It's going to be very hard for you to get it at a low price because everybody knows it's a great company, so it's always going to be trading at a premium. So that's not really a criticism of Palantir, just a criticism of the forward-facing markets that we operate in. So, no, it is what it is. You're always going to overpay a little bit for a good company, and you're not going to get it cheap because, the information is flowing absolutely freely. Now, I do have to point out, I have no affiliation with Palantir. I don't know anybody in the company. I'm not getting paid to talk about this company. My only understanding comes from what I see in the open source, in public information. So, by the way, the only contact I ever had with them, they emailed me once offering for me to interview Sham Sankar, and I missed the email for like 6 months. And then 6 months later, I was like, hey, is this still relevant? They never got back to me. I think they got annoyed by that or whatever. But, that was the extent of my communications with Palantir. So I have no inside track about what's going on in Palantir. Now, my main point here is that Alex from Ticker Symbol U, not Alex Karp, is saying that a lot of the retail investment community thinks that Palantir is competing with OpenAI, that it's a generative AI company. It's generating its own AI, and therefore it's competing with OpenAI and similar. And he's essentially saying, look, Palantir isn't that. Its AIP platform is essentially a package in which every company takes a large language model off the shelf, and it uses the AIP platform to utilize that LLM, that large language model, into its own business to make sense of its massive amounts of data. And he's basically saying, well, look, the biggest problem with that is that eventually these LLMs, the OpenAIs, the Microsofts, right, they're going to incorporate these features into their own LLM, into their own product, and therefore rendering Palantir irrelevant. They're going to cut out Palantir services because they're going to build it themselves. Now, I want to point out two things. Number one, again, Alex, you're talking about something that's going to happen maybe in the future. I agree that this is a possibility, sure, but it hasn't happened yet, and you're talking about something that may happen. How long it's going to take them to build AIP, how good it's going to be, how receptive the market is going to be. The idea for Palantir right now, and this is another thing he criticizes Palantir for, is like Palantir isn't really monetizing AIP right now. They're all about grabbing market share. But I think the reason they're doing this is because now it's the time to grab that market share before the competition comes in. If you establish relationships, if you establish work operations with these companies, then when certain competitors will appear, Palantir is going to have a stranglehold on the market. So it makes total sense to me what Palantir is doing right now, which is almost kind of do a loss lead, essentially get into the front door, deploy the system, and then start charging once they're already in the business. Now, the main thing I want to explain here is a novice, in the software industry, or I would say rather layman, not a novice, but not as an engineer. It's like, look, AI is a gold rush. I think everybody can agree. So if AI is the new gold rush, and everybody's now prospecting for gold. I just want to remind you that the people who made the most amount of money during the gold rush times were the people who were selling the shovels, not the people who were digging around for gold. So all these generative AI companies that are now competing with itself, there's thousands of these companies. Everybody is now a generative AI competitor. They're all prospecting for the next chunk of gold. But Palantir is selling the shovels. It's selling AIP, which is a tool you use to dig for gold. Literally, just data gold. So my understanding is very, very simple. This is a gold rush, and the company I like and I'm bullish on is selling the shovels. Historically speaking, that's not a bad business. Are there going to be any other shovel sellers out there? Maybe. Who knows? Will they grab market share from Palantir? Depends on how much market share Palantir grabs right now, how strong it becomes in the market. If it becomes an industry standard, a quasi-monopoly, like Peter Thiel projected about 6 years ago, then it's going to be very hard for competitors to come in and do that. Now, the other thing is, I think it's important to understand, we're talking about a company that's basically built in the image of Peter Thiel. Now, you may not like Peter Thiel, you may think he's an asshole, whatever you may think, but he's one hell of a shark, and he's a ruthless SOB, and is not going to be steamrolled by anybody. I think he's proven that. So if Peter Thiel is involved in this company, if he's the founder and he's the chairman of the board, you think he doesn't understand what these guys are talking about? He doesn't know about what they're about to do? I think Peter Thiel is a ruthless shark. And having him in the company, while I may not, want to have a beer with him and hang out with him, having him as, the founder and this chairman of the board of the company that I'm investing in makes me very, I would say, confident that all these future threats are addressed and managed. Now, is there a 100% guarantee that Palantir would triumph and go 25x from now? Hell no. Nothing in this life is guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. The only thing that are guaranteed in this life are death and taxes. Everything else is up for grabs. Hope you have a great Sunday.